Welcome to Code Freedom. I'm your host, Eddie Bales. Have you ever felt stuck? Have you ever felt like there's got to be more than life than the reality that you see every day? Tune in weekly, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays as we crack the codes to freedom in every area of your life. Welcome to Code Freedom. This is Eddie Bales, your host, and this is episode 2. Running a race without a finish line. Maybe you've ever felt like that. Maybe you felt like, you've just been running, and sometimes you just experience burnout because you just feel like I'm running, I'm ripping, I'm running, kind of like an octopus on roller skates. Sometimes just going nowhere fast. And I know I felt like that many a times until I discovered this one concept that I want to share with you guys today. And this concept obviously has been around for a long time. You've heard of it, you're very familiar with it, but maybe you're not implementing it. And so let me just start with this. Harvard Business did a study, and they found that, first off, 83% of people have no goals, right? 14% have goals, and basically they have that plan in their head. Now, those 14%, they do 10 times better than the other 83%, but it gets even better. So then you have 3% who actually write the goals down. So they have a goal, but then they take it a step further and write it down. Guess what? They do 3 times better than the 14%. So I guess you probably guessed what we're going to talk about a little bit today is goals, right? People say resolutions, but I like to just say goals because, if you're going to be successful and you want to make your mark and do all that God calls you to do, you got to have goals, right? And so, we've heard the old adage of SMART goals, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but I feel it's necessary to talk a little bit about that because maybe you've never heard of SMART goals. Maybe you don't understand it. Maybe you've never even had any experience with it. So, the SMART goals is basically the S is for specific. It's got to be specific. You can't just say I want to be successful. You can't just say I want to lose weight. You can't just say I want a better relationship. You just can't say something general. It has to be very specific. The other thing is it has to be measurable. How will you know that you've actually achieved that goal if you don't have a way to measure it? So how can we have to have some kind of way to measure that goal. For instance, I want to lose 5 pounds in the next 3 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever it is. So you have to have something to measure it by. You also, it needs to be the A is it needs to be achievable. Some people say attainable, same thing. But this one is basically it has to be able to be accomplished within your circumstances, right? For instance, your time frame that you have, your how your life is set up, the way your family is set up, the way your time is set up, the way your resources are set up. It has to be something that you feel you can do. It also has to be, the R is actually realistic. It has to be realistic. You can't say, hey, I want to lose 30 pounds in 2 days. I don't know if that's even healthy, right? So, it has to be something that is realistic, because if it's not realistic, you won't even go for it. And the minute that you see that it's not happening for you, you'll stop. So realistic is really, really important. And then, of course, you have to have a timeline. You have to have a deadline. You have to have, like, I need to get this by this. I want to do that by this, right? So those are the traditional SMART goals. But what I want to talk with you guys today is just sharing 4 things that I believe can really help you turn up on your goals, right? So the first thing is, you probably guessed it, write your goals down. You want to be part of that 3%, right? The 3% that does better than the 14%, and that 14% that does 10 times better than the 83%. So write your goals down, write them often. I have one mentor, he says, write your goals down every single day. And I think that's a great thing to do because, if someone just writes it down once, but then someone else writes it down every day, it's in your head. You're thinking about it. It's on your mind. So guess what? You're going to do something about it because it's something that's fresh on your mind every single day because you're writing it down. So, hey, writing it down once, hey, that's great. But hey, if you can, write it down every single day and see what that does for you. But then the next thing is you got to have a plan. I've always said if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And so, what is your plan? How are you going to get it done? See, if you have this goal and you don't have a plan, then it's almost like you're just expecting it to happen by osmosis. You got to have some kind of plan in place, like what steps are you going to take? What angle are you going to come at it with? I remember my wife and I, we were blessed to build our home from the ground up. And when we were doing that, we were able to design the layout. We were able to design, we knew where the rooms were going to be, what room had what purpose, and what the colors were and things like that. So we had a plan. You got to have a plan. Matter of fact, put it this way, you got to build it before you build it, right? You got to build it before you build it. And it's great to build it on paper. I'm just an old fashioned guy about putting things on paper. In fact, the Bible says, write the vision and make it plain, right? So you got to put that vision out. You got to have a vision, and then you can start to execute. That's number 3, actually, is to execute that. But just basically taking daily action. What are you going to do every single day toward that goal? There's one book that I read. I can't think of the name of it, but it talks about having lead measures and lag measures. There it goes. The 4 disciplines of execution. In that book, it talks about having lead measures and lag measures. And the lead measures is basically the things that you're going to do every single day to get to the lag measure, which is what you're looking to accomplish, right? So just have something that you're going to do every single day. How do you build a house? You build it brick by brick. How do you eat an elephant? You eat it one bite at a time. So as we're going to achieve these goals, what can you do every single day incrementally that can compound itself so that you step back and look back and, man, you're like, wow, I built something great. But it was because you took some kind of action every single day relentlessly. So that is the third thing. And then number 4, this is one that maybe doesn't often get talked about when it comes to goal setting, but I think it's highly important. In fact, I think it's probably one of the most important things is having some kind of accountability. I was listening to another mentor. I have lots of mentors, so you'll probably hear me say that quite a bit. But one of my mentors was saying, listen, they had a group, and with this group, they took one group and they decided to give them some form of accountability where they kind of shine the light on them. They were paying attention to everything that they were doing for a season, and their numbers went up through the roof. And then the minute they decided, hey, we're gonna just back off a little bit, go back to things as usual, guess what? Their numbers went right back to the way it was. So what they found is that people turn it up a little bit more when they know that they have to be accountable. So who are you accountable to? Who's in your circle? Who's in your squad? Who's your tribe that you can be accountable to? Because I'm in several accountability groups, and that's another thing I've learned is that you can have different accountability partners for different things. Maybe you might have one accountability partner for affirmations. Like, hey, did you do your affirmations today? Hey, you may have another accountability partner for health. Hey, let's go walking together, or let's do whatever together. Let's work out together. Let's go to the gym together. Maybe you may have another accountability partner for something else. But the key is to have some kind of accountability partner, because it's so easy to just quit on us, right? It's so easy to quit on yourself. But when you have someone, I'll never forget, years ago, I had a good friend of mine, and we used to get up at like 6 in the morning for a Bible study. And I loved it because I learned so much and it was so refreshing early in the morning. But I'm not a morning person. So 6 in the morning is a little bit early for me, even back then. But what gave me the accountability is I didn't have a car at that point. I mean, I think I was still a teenager at that time, at that point. And so he was coming to pick me up to take me there. So I'm like, well, man, I at least got to be up so he doesn't drive all the way across town for nothing. right? So that piece right there was accountability. I'll fast forward before the pandemic hit, was going to the gym on a regular basis, had a good buddy of mine. And, you know, sometimes I didn't want to go, but he was like, "Hey, I'm on my way. You coming?" I'm like, I can't say no. Like, hey, we're accountable to each other, right? So it was probably times he didn't feel like going, but I was like, "Hey, I'm at the gym. Where you at?" So it was one of those things where we were keeping each other accountable. It's so key that you have accountability. So I'll say them again. Number one, write them down. Write those goals down. Number two, have a plan. Number three, make sure you take daily action. And then number four is have some kind of accountability partner. And then I want to end with this. There was another study. I can't remember who it was by, but they took these two groups, and what they did is they said, "Look, this group, we want you to write your goals down." And then they took the other group. By the way, it was 20%. So just imagine if, let's just say, for instance, 100 people, 20 of them, they wrote their goals down. And then they took the other group, 80% of them, 80 of them, and they didn't write their goals down. And I don't even know if they had a goal, right? I think that, yeah, they had a goal, but they didn't write it down. And so they actually followed these two groups for 20 years. How powerful is that? Came follow back up with them. And then what they found is that the 20% that wrote their goals down, they out earned the entire 80%. So just think of 20 people collectively who earn more than the 80. So more people in the 80%, but they out earned them simply because they wrote their goals down. So listen, it's biblical. Write the vision, make it plain. Let's go out there and crush our goals in January and in February and in March and in April, all throughout the year. Let's make 2021 the best year we ever had. But this is one of those codes to freedom, is goal setting. So you're not running a race without a finish line, but you actually have a finish line. You know where that finish line is. Hey, you even know how you're going to get to that finish line. And you have some people who are almost running with you, and you're highly likely to reach that finish line. So I hope this helps. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. This is another episode of Code Freedom. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you guys for listening. Definitely feel free to take a screenshot of this episode, tag me in it on Instagram or Facebook or wherever you find me on social media. I would love to give you a shout out. Hey, you might even get a prize. Who knows? But excited that you had a chance to take a listen. I hope you got a lot of value. And definitely feel free to give us 5 stars as well as a review. Show us some love, and we appreciate you. God bless you all, and see you all over the top.